Everyone, this is Jeff. We're still continuing on the 348. The customer wants us to check the oil chain guide on this. So to do that, you have to drop the oil pan. So we're going to go ahead and do that. This cross member is going to have to come out of here. It's just got a couple bolts here. And then all the brackets for the shift linkage is going to have to come loose. The bracket for the alternator has got to come loose. And a few other things like these crank sensors, they've got to come loose.
This oil line here, right?
Yeah, and the oil line right there has got to come loose. So like I said, all this stuff up here has to come off. So to get this pan off, and then then we'll have access to the bolts that run vertically around the pan. So we're going to go ahead and remove all these items here. So it's going to take us a little bit, but hopefully not too long. But we're going to go ahead and do that, get started on that. So we'll catch you in a few. All right, believe it or not, we took all the bolts out of this thing, and Mark, with this hulkish figure, was
superhuman strength.
Was just pulled on this thing and it fell down. We didn't have to use any kind of equipment, wedges or anything. It just came off.
Came off very nice.
Took this down because the customer wants to change the tensioner here in the guide for the oil pump chain. So we're going to take this off and then see how it looks, because he's concerned that there's wear here, and they have an updated tensioner that's actually used on the 360. So we're going to install that. We don't have it right now. We were just going to get this apart, so when we do get this, that we'll have it, ready to install. So because we didn't realize how much of a pain in the butt this was going to be or whatever, but this came off pretty nicely. I'm really surprised at how this came off. The screens actually got a little debris in them. I mean, this car is almost 30 years old, so and
we can take these off.
We'll see what this looks like inside. But anyhow, that's where we're at, and we'll continue on this thing. We're going to clean it up and see what. All right, the other day we removed this pan, and we've cleaned this flange surface up here really good. Just be kind of gentle with it, because that is a machine surface, and there's no gasket involved. So you don't want to do any damage to it, then you'll cause a leak. But anyway, we took this down to check the tensioner. We started to take the two bolts out. We were able to flip this tensioner down, or guide / tensioner, and we checked the this pad. We checked the surface, and there was no wear. So we're going to go ahead and use it, because we do have a new one, which we have over here somewhere. And this is actually an updated one that's used on the 360 also. But it's a different design somewhat. But you need
the shaft, I think, is the difference.
All the hardware associated with this to get it to work. So the hardware on this old one will not work on the new one. So we don't have the center pin, which was out of stock, but since the other pad was in good shape, there's nothing wrong with it. We're going to go ahead and return this and go with the old one, because we have all the materials for the old one, and we're not going to wait around for that unit. So we've got this all back together. There's two bolts that kind of hold this thing together. We removed it, and like I said, we determined it was in good shape, so we put it all back. And like you said, you want to kind of pay attention. This arm rests against the back of this. This is what actually kind of keeps the tension to it. It's like a self-tensioning deal. So I mean, once you release the spring here, it kind of sets a light tension, and then this just kind of
holds it there, right?
Reinforces it. So there's not much on that, so there's no adjustments really. I can actually show you on this one here. So basically, you can see the spring is retracted, and then Mark can rotate it, just that little shaft there, and you'll see it kind of sling out like that. Okay, that's what sets the tension. The same thing on the other one. You can reset this, by the way. You can just kind of push this block back, and then turn that shaft. it's kind of a finicky, but I mean, it's,
is.
yeah, and then you just turn it the other way. And then that's reset. So anyway, here's the pan. We've got it all cleaned up right now. It's all ready to go. We didn't have much of a problem getting the old sealant off. I know that people said they've had problems getting the old sealant off, but this seemed like it was on there pretty good, but it came right off. And then, like I said, it's got an O-ring over here. So we're probably going to put a little RTV on this side. And then we're going to use this. A lot of guys said Honda Bond. We're going to use this anaerobic gasket maker, which is considered like Hylamar also. I've used this on other cars like 360 and that. This is made for aluminum machine surfaces. And it really doesn't cure, but that's the way it's made. So we're going to use that on this and put a light film on there. Like, you're not going to use much.
The more you use, the more you squeeze out.
Yes. So anyway, this is what we're going to use. We're going to put a light bead all the way down, and like I said, put some RTV on this surface. There's this here. We'll go show you on this other side. There is a gasket like right here on this pan. Make sure it's clean. We'll put a little RTV there and make sure it's not damaged. There's also another O-ring right here. We're just going to keep oil on it. We're not going to put anything on it. So other than that, that's pretty much it. So we're going to go ahead and throw this thing back together, and hopefully for no more leaks. So it wasn't leaking before, so hopefully we're not going to have a problem. So anyway, we're going to proceed on. All right, so we've got our sealant, our Hylamar, kind of all laid out there. Like I said, you don't want to go too crazy with this stuff. The thinnest, the most possible coating is probably the best, because like I said, this is a machine surface. Any excess is going to get squeezed out somewhere. So we've done it, put the Hylamar on here, and we've put some RTV up in here. Now this is high temp RTV on the seal only. So that's the only area that's going to get RTV. So we're going to go ahead and put this pan on at this time. All right, so we've got the oil pan back on, torqued up. Don't forget your oil line here. Your bolts, 2 big bolts here, your 2 bolts here, and then all your nuts around the perimeter, all along here. Don't forget those. We're gonna go ahead and hook up our shift linkage now and our crank position sensors up here. So then we're gonna work on putting the alternator back on, and then the AC compressor. But anyhow, the oil pan is back on, sealed, torqued up, and we should be done with that, and hopefully no leaks. All right, we'll proceed on. All right, so we've got the wheel wells back together now. The inner fender wells, on the back wheels. Yesterday we reinstalled the oil pan, and now we're going to go ahead and install this cover. We had the shift linkage installed. We're going to install the cover at this point, and then I got to install the side brace yet that we removed from the when we removed the oil pan, so that has to be reinstalled yet. And then AC compressor, and then our belts. And then once the belts and that are all installed, we can start installing the rest of these other panels. But right now, like I said, I'm going to install this cover for the shift linkage, and then install the side brace here for the support for the structure here underneath the underneath the oil case, oil pan, whatever you want to call that. I can't talk. All right, now we've got our cover for our shift linkages installed, our side braces installed, and then we're going to continue on. I think we're going to go ahead and put the accessories on, like the AC compressor and the belts for the alternator. So we're going to go ahead and proceed and do that. All right, so we've got our alternator belt tightened up and our AC compressor belt tightened up. Like I said before, the manuals tell you using a steigermeter or steigermeter. We don't have one. I mean, the old rule of thumb is you can take a belt and twist it on its side, and it has some resistance like that. It's usually pretty good. And I did the same on the other one. Don't forget to, after you get this tension up, don't forget to secure your center bolt there on your pulley for your alternator. And then secure your nut up here for your AC compressor. So all those are secure. And then don't forget to secure these 2 bolts here. It has a couple shims in here. So other than that, the belt should be tight by now. And then we're going to go ahead and lower and service the car with some oil at this point.